Anatomic position. Terms have been developed over the past several thousand years to enable you to describe clearly where different anatomic structures and lesions are in relation to each other. To communicate effectively with other health professionals, it is critical that you are able to use the terminology to describe these positions and relative positions. When all anatomic descriptions are used, it is assumed that the body is in the anatomic position. The body is standing erect with feet flat on the floor, face and eyes facing forward, and arms at the sides with the palms facing forward. Right, left, distal going down, proximal going up. Your midline, medial, or what is it? What? Medial, lateral, distal down the right leg, proximal up the left, fucking halfway up, superior cephalac, inferior caudal. When your palms face forward, the forearm is supine. When you lie down flat on your back, you are supine. When your palms face backward, the forearm is prone. When you lie down flat on your abdomen, you are prone. Prone to what? Directional terms. Directional terms. Laying on your belly. Directional terms describe the position of one structure or part of the body relative to another. For example, cephalac versus caudal, ventral versus dorsal, and proximal versus distal. These directional terms are shown. Anterior in front of you, ventral. Posterior behind you, dorsal. Proximal up the leg, distal down the leg. Superior cephalac up towards the head, inferior caudal down towards the floor. I think. Anatomic planes. Different views of the body are based on imaginary slices, producing flat surfaces that pass through the body. The three major anatomic planes are frontal plane, frontal plane, transverse plane, and sagittal plane. Transverse or horizontal, a plane across the body parallel to the floor and perpendicular to the body's long axis. It divides the body into an upper superior portion and the lower inferior portion. Sagittal, a vertical plane that divides the body into right and left portions. And frontal or coronal, a vertical plane that divides the body into front anterior and back posterior positions. Anatomical positions, directions, and planes. Anatomy. Ana meaning away from, tomi meaning section. Study of the structures of the human body. Anatomic, an adjective. Ik meaning pertaining to anatomy. Interior, opposite of posterior. Er meaning pertaining to, anter meaning before, front part. Front surface of the body situated in front. Caudal, opposite of cephalac. Al pertaining to cod, tail. Pertaining to or near to the tail. Oh. Cephalac, opposite of caudal. Ik, or cephalic. Cephalic.
Caudal.
Okay. Cephalic, ik pertaining to cephal, head. Pertaining to or nearer to the head. Coronal, equivalent to frontal. Al, pertaining to, corone, crown. Pertaining to the vertical plane, dividing the body into anterior and posterior portions.
Yeah, there's lots of words. I like all the words.
Distal, opposite of proximal. Al, pertaining to. Dist, away from the center. Situated away from the center of the body. Dorsal, equivalent to posterior. Al, pertaining to. Dors is back. Pertaining to the back or situated behind. Frontal, equivalent to coronal. Al, pertaining to. Front, front. In front, relating to the anterior part of the body. Inferior, opposite of superior. Your, pertaining to. Inter, below. Situated below. Posterior, your, pertaining to. Posture, coming behind. Pertaining to the back surface of the body, situated behind. Prone, opposite of supine. Latin, bending forward. Lying face down, flat on your abdomen. Proximal, opposite of distal. Al, pertaining to. Proxim, nearest. Situated nearest the center of the body. Sagittal, al, pertaining to. Sagitt, arrow. Pertaining to the vertical plane through the body, dividing it into right and left portions. Superior, opposite of inferior. Your, pertaining to. Super, above. Situated above. Supine, opposite of prone. Latin for bend backward. Lying face down, flat on your spine. Transverse, Latin crosswise. Pertaining to the horizontal plane dividing the body into upper and lower portions. Ventral, equivalent to anterior. Al, pertaining to ventral belly. Pertaining to the abdomen or situated near the surface of the abdomen. Body cavities. The body contains many cavities. Some, like the nasal cavity, open to the outside. 5 cavities do not open to the outside and are shown in figure 311. You have a cranial cavity, spinal cavity, thoracic cavity, your diaphragm, your abdominal cavity, pelvic cavity, also known as abdominopelvic cavity. Okay, cranial cavity contains the brain within the skull. Thoracic cavity contains the heart, lungs, thymus gland, trachea, and esophagus, as well as numerous blood vessels and nerves. Abdominal cavity is separated from the thoracic cavity by the diaphragm and contains the stomach, intestines, liver, spleen, pancreas, and kidneys. Pelvic cavity is surrounded by the pelvic bones and contains the urinary bladder, part of the large intestine, the rectum, the anus, and the internal reproductive organs. Spinal cavity contains the spinal cord. The abdominal cavity and pelvic cavity are collectively referred to as the abdominopelvic cavity. Abdominal quadrants and regions. One way of referring to the locations of abdominal structures and the site of abdominal pain and other abnormalities is to divide the abdominal region into quadrants, as shown in figure 312. Okay, the locations are right upper quadrant, left upper quadrant, right lower quadrant, and left lower quadrant. Each quadrant has 3-letter abbreviations shown, for example, RUQ. Okay, and you'll see the hypochondriac region, epigastric region, lumbar region, umbilical region, inguinal region, hypogastric region. The abdomen can also be divided into 9 regions. The central region is called the umbilic region, as it is located around the umbilicus. The area above and below that region are named relative to the stomach, epigastric. Above the stomach and Hypogastric, below the stomach. The 6 remaining regions are on the right and left sides of these central regions. The upper regions on either side of the epigastric region, which sit below the ribs, are named the right and left hypochondriac regions. The regions on either side of the umbilical region are named the right and left lumbar regions, according to the area of the spine nearby. The regions on either side of the hypogastric region are named the right and left inguinal groin regions. Abdomen, Latin, abdomen, part of the trunk between the thorax and pelvis. Abdominal, al, pertaining to abdomen, meaning abdomen, pertaining to the abdomen. Abdominopelvic, ick, pertaining to abdomino, meaning abdomen, and pelv, meaning pelvis, pertaining to the abdomen and pelvis. Cavity, Latin for hollow place, hollow space or body compartment. Cranial, al, pertaining to crani, skull, pertaining to the skull. Diaphragm, Greek for diaphragm or fence. The musculo-membranous partition separating the abdomen and thoracic cavities. Epigastric, ick, meaning pertaining to, epi, above, gastrous, stomach, pertaining to the abdominal region above the stomach. Epigastrium, noun, eum meaning structure, gastrum meaning stomach. The upper central region of the abdomen located between the costal margins and the subcostal plane. Hypochondriac. Am I saying that right?
Hypochondriac.
Yeah, hypochondriac. Iac meaning pertaining to, hypo, below, chondri, cartilage, pertaining to below the cartilage, below the ribs. Hypogastric, ick meaning pertaining to, hypo meaning below, gastric meaning stomach, pertaining to the abdominal regions below the stomach.
Inguinal.
Inguinal, al, pertaining to, inguine, groin, pertaining to the groin. Lumbar, r, pertaining to, lum, meaning lower back, and loin, pertaining to the region in the back and sides between the ribs and pelvis. Pelvic, ick, pertaining to, pelv, meaning pelvis, pertaining to the pubic bone. Quadrant, Latin for 1/4, 1/4 of a circle. Umbilical, al, pertaining to, umbilic, belly button, navel, pertaining to or around the umbilicus or the center of the abdomen. Umbilicus, noun, pit in the abdomen where the umbilical cord entered the fetus. Okay.
Yeah.
Identify directional terms. Okay. Ventral. Anterior. Ventral. Equivalent to anterior, pertaining to the abdomen, situated near the surface of the abdomen. So, identify the term that has the opposite meaning. What? Identify the term that has the opposite meaning. Well, the opposite of ventral is posterior. caudal is opposite. Its opposite is cephalac. Distal, opposite proximal. Posterior, opposite superior. No, opposite posterior is anterior. And opposite superior, I think, is inferior. Yeah. Okay. This plane divides the body into right and left sides. The sagittal plane, I believe. Yeah, sagittal. This plane is also known as the frontal plane. I thought it was just the frontal plane is frontal plane. Frontal or coronal coronal plane. Vertical plane. This plane is known as the horizontal plane. I think it's sagittal. Nope, transverse. Transverse plane is known as horizontal plane. Coronal plane is frontal plane. And sagittal divides the body into left and right. Okay. Take a closer look. Okay. Break it down into elements with a slash. See how combinations. First one's done for you. Fill in the blanks. Okay. Hypogastric. It'd be hype/o. Gastric is stomach, and ic is the suffix. And abdominopelvic. Abdomen /o/pelvic. Create medical terms. The quadrants mark the areas of the blank cavity. Quadrants mark the areas of the abdominal cavity. And the center of the abdominal regions is the center of the abdominal region, sagittal region. The center is transverse plane. No. Oh, okay. The center is your umbilical region, I guess. Umbilical region. Yeah. Sweet.